Happy Friday, everybody. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web, coming to you from the front lines in Brooklyn, New York. New York City has now been dubbed the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. I'm sitting in my restaurant, Della, in Brooklyn, New York. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. We are trying to get everything synced up through Zoom, the new communication tool of the universe. So bear with us as we try to get everything put together here. Waiting for my guest to join via satellite, and there he is. There he goes. He was there. He was there for a minute. We'll bring him back in just a minute. My guest today.
Here.
He's here. I can see you. I can hear you. This is so strange.
Awesome.
So this is my guest, Aaron Felder. He used to live across the street from me here in the Windsor Terrace section of Brooklyn. He and I trained jiu-jitsu together for quite a while as well. He relocated to Yonkers briefly, and he is now in Philadelphia and is the current CEO of the Food Trust, which has a big role these days. There's a lot happening there. Say hi, Aaron. What's going on?
Hey, there's something I want to say to you that I haven't said to anybody in weeks. You ready?
I'm ready.
Us.
We're good. Aaron just hijacked the message of the week. That's great, because I didn't have one. Os. So os is a Japanese term. It means a number of things, depending on the context of who you're speaking to in the situation. I
just always said it to you whenever you tapped me out, like every 30 seconds.
Every time he got choked, he was like, os. But one of the early underlying meanings that I discovered of it that really stuck with me was it means to push and to preserve. And I think that's a really valuable bit of information right now, because we're under some severe pressure. Everybody, the world, the country, regionally, industry-wise, and that's all we really have right now, right? Is perseverance. It also means hi. It also means thank you. It also means I understand. It also means that was a good submission.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying Smurf, but in jiu-jitsu.
Smurf. Maybe. So that's it. Push and preserve. That's the message of the week. Os in Japanese.
That's the message of the week, I think, for everybody. And it's been my mantra in work and in my personal life has just been, you can't do anything better than your best, right? And so That's all we're all trying to do.
Right.
And you and I were talking earlier about how I have about 5 minutes in the morning every day when I wake up where I've forgotten that all this is happening, and it just kind of seems like a nightmare, but then the panic slowly creeps in on me.
Yeah.
And then the day happens.
And for me, it's often been the opposite, where I wake up in a panic and then I start to move around and open things and do things. And then I'm like, okay, the world is not over yet. We're still here. So it hits everybody in a different way. And the more signs of life I get, the better I feel. Like just getting outside and walking, and like getting fresh air, or maybe a little workout. And certainly through the course of the day, as I get busy, my businesses are fortunately still able to operate. But there's a double-edged sword, because it puts me in contact with people, which you're in a way not supposed to do. Yeah. We're doing everybody's doing their best to take the necessary precautions to stay, clean and hygienic. And I was telling you earlier, like in the restaurant industry, it's always been a thing. Like, you always wash your hands like 50 times a shift. You just do it. Like, do it publicly. All the sinks are, there's always visible sinks, so customers can see you washing your hands. That's a really big deal. But it's just for cleanliness. And then also just like, never ever touch your face or your hair while you're working. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a bartender or a server, a cook, a dishwasher, like, you just never do that. So hopefully I've been trained enough in this after over 25 years in the restaurant industry that it's habit, and I'm keeping myself safe. But like I said, we're doing our best, trying to take all the necessary precautions to stay safe, but still get people some food and some wine. The food is necessary. The wine, people,
The wine is necessary.
So I knew you were going to say that.
You can still be open. So speaking of food.
Yes. Speak of food.
Yeah. So the food trust, where I'm actually interim CEO, but I've, in case any board members are listening, I've thrown my hat in the ring to become permanent. The food trust is both a local organization in Philadelphia, but also nationally. And I'm not going to, rattle off the whole mission statement, but basically it exists so that people don't have to make a choice between having enough food and having nutritious food.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so we closed our office about 2 weeks ago, and there's since been a confirmed case of the virus in our building. So, I'm sure that's probably the case in every big office building in every city.
And the office is in Philly, is that correct?
The main office, the administrative office, is in Center City of Philadelphia, but programming is all over the country.
Right.
We have offices in Pittsburgh and Cleveland, California, and then technical assistance projects going on all over the country. So it's both a small organization and a huge organization.
Right.
Exists mainly to provide access to good food in food deserts. So we have a lot of partnerships, hundreds and hundreds of them, with entire public school districts like Philadelphia and Camden, New Jersey, where we go in and do education and demonstrations, and then partnerships with bodegas in cities all over the country where we help them get financing for refrigeration equipment, help them learn how to purchase and stock perishable foods, so that people aren't just, so that people who do their shopping in places like that aren't just buying canned stuff.
Right.
And then we used to do cooking demonstrations and hand out samples, but as this whole thing started to creep up on us, that was one of the first things to go, both for hygiene and because everybody was running in looking for hand sanitizer and paper towels. Yeah.
And toilet paper.
And toilet paper.
What Aaron didn't mention was that starting next month, his company is going to change the name to the Toilet Paper Trust, as it has become more of a commodity than
food, right?
Than food, and we can't be going out with nasty asses.
Well, I can't. Maybe you can, but
so right now, that especially the partnerships with the bodegas and the local corner stores seems like it would be super instrumental, because in a lot of, especially in parts of Brooklyn and Queens and Manhattan, that's often some people's closest and most convenient, reliable source of food. And if they have, what we really need right now is nutritious food, and not to eat a bunch of junk and super processed food. We need our immune systems high. A lot of that comes through diet and accessibility to food. So your role is pretty big right now.
Yeah, exactly. But I think early last week I made the decision to pull all of our community staff out, so they're not working in the corner stores anymore, but we're keeping those relationships going and doing what we can to keep the supply chain going. Because you're absolutely right. Small not-for-profits can be swept by the wayside in times of crisis, but I really look at the Food Trust and other organizations like it as being public health organizations and part of the safety net. And we operate a whole network of farmers markets across Philadelphia, and 3 of them are actually year-round, and they have stayed open because we accept SNAP benefits, formerly food stamps. And so that's where a lot of lower income families are going to get their nutritious food. It's a really important resource for the communities. So right now, those are our only programs that are functioning the same way they did pre-virus. And they're doing boom business because I think partly because of the stockpiling mentality, but also because of health consciousness that's kind of working into the country's national consciousness.
Yeah, I would say, I'm the chairman of the board for the Windsor Terrace Food Co-op,
Right.
In Brooklyn, and it's been a similar experience there where we've had our best 3 weeks ever consecutively. And part of it is definitely in the mission there is very similar. Trying to get the most nutritious, personally sourced food for the community. And it is member owned and operated, meaning you have to be a member to join and you have to volunteer some service, but that reduces the cost of the goods. And again, where there's a small team of people hand selecting what's coming in, and we're trying to pick, the most nutritional and freshest things for our membership. But we also, what is it here? Is it WIC? Or am I getting that wrong? Is that upstate?
WIC is women, infants, and children. That's a little bit different.
What's the, I forget the name of this acronym for the...
food stamps?
Yeah, here. And what is SNAP. It? It's SNAP here too.
SNAP nationwide.
Your audio is breaking up just a little bit on my end.
I'm sorry, I over the mic.
There's something else. We have a terminal where they come in with a card and they pay with that. I forgot what it's called. Anyways.
Your programs vary state by state, and also it's worth mentioning that, I've only been in this job for 2 months now, so it's been a trial by fire. Yeah,
and then so in that situation, it's very similar where we've seen people a lot of people are buying in large quantities because they're concerned. But another interesting shift that's happened here is that people are here in the neighborhood more, and they're buying everything completely locally now. So all the local businesses that are still open are seeing an increase because, especially as New Yorkers, we're very transient, running all over the place, right? We're always, out and about and getting stuff from a bunch of different places. Now everybody's like in one spot. We've seen, membership, participation go up and certainly spending. And in our situation, we allow other food co-op members. If you're a member of another food co-op here in New York City, you can shop there as well. So parcel of food co-op members that live right here, they don't want to go, deal with all that commuting and everything. They're shopping there, and it's been good. And again, we operate as a nonprofit. The grocery stores can't legally be nonprofit organizations in the United States. We get this, I forget the name of the filing. We get this specific filing that allows us to operate kind of as a yeah, exactly. But outside of our internal culture and perception, we're just seen as another store, but the threat, the blade is always at the throat, as you said, for nonprofits in times like this, small nonprofits just go whoop and just get swept aside.
Yeah. But what's been interesting to me this time is I've only ever worked in not-for-profits for 20 plus years. And it's always lean. The margins are always razor thin. Right. And when you're grant funded, the way that the Food Trust is primarily, you're very focused on your deliverables. So you write a grant, you say what you're going to do, and you get the money to do what you're going to do, and that's it. So there's no contribution to very little contribution to margin from those kind of things. And we've got 30 plus funders. We're living off of a lot of very small grants and then one large federal grant. And so we've been working with our funders to help them understand that we're not really able to meet our deliverables as stated in our grants because most of them are pushing into all those hundreds of schools and bodegas and, operating a big network of farmers markets and doing all this technical assistance around supermarket development. All of that has obviously ground to a halt because all those places are closed. But very happily, the philanthropic community is responding very flexibly and very, with a lot of understanding. And I think it's because we've positioned ourselves effectively as part of the public health system. Mm-hmm. And that's what everybody is interested in investing in now. So for us, now is a time to really think strategically and maybe turn this into some sort of opportunity. Kinds of business
for everyone. We're going to take a short break, Aaron. Just hang tight. We'll be back in a few, everybody. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Once again, you're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox, zooming in live. I'm making it a verb. We zoom in. Now, my restaurant, Della, in Brooklyn. My guest today, Aaron Felder, the CEO of the Food Trust based out of Philadelphia. He also used to live in the neighborhood. So we both deal in food. But Aaron got his start in another branch of nonprofit service. And as soon as we get him back here on the video,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
He's here. He can talk about that. And my apologies again. Every week is like we're discovering something new. Last week we lost like the first 20 minutes of video. All this technology and stuff I'm not used to. My lapel mic, it was just sitting on the table that whole first segment. And I looked down like halfway through, and I was like, "Shit, I might need that." So. That wasn't a cough. That was a cough. Apologies, everyone.
Nice Dracula cough, though, Jeremiah.
Right. Or the professors made me do that before. He made me fart out of my mouth once. Yeah, sorry about the inept audio. Hopefully it'll be better this time. But every week I'm learning something new. So why don't you tell everybody, you mentioned you had been in nonprofits for over 20 years, but the Food Trust is something newer for you. What were you doing prior to this?
So immediately prior to this, I was the chief operating officer at a comprehensive healthcare and social services agency in the Bronx called VIP, which stands for Vocational Instruction Project. It's been around since 1974, which is exactly how long I've been around for.
Oh, you old! No, I'm kidding.
That's why you always beat me up on the mats, man. I have a few years on you.
Just a couple.
So anyway, that agency is primarily an addiction treatment services agency. So it had the first floor of it was a big methadone clinic with about 1,500 patients a day, and then a lot of other clinical services throughout the building, like a federally qualified health center, which is essentially a comprehensive family health center, primarily for people on government health insurance products like Medicaid, Medicare, day treatment programs, residential treatment, a homeless shelter, lots of other stuff I'm forgetting right now. But you was in
the trenches.
I was, yeah. And it's the Bronx, which is the opioid crisis is really hitting the Bronx really hard. It's really sad. Right. It's really, really sad. Yeah.
I heard something else just this week about one of the reasons they decided to keep liquor stores open and alcohol, they didn't suspend alcohol sales in New York City, was because they were afraid the amount of alcoholics that went into withdrawal would start to flood hospitals, and they didn't want to. They were already looking at being overwhelmed. How is something like heroin addiction and opiate addiction going to affect, in your prediction, what's happening right now? Because supply chains can't be so great right now for that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about that, and I'm totally disconnected from it professionally at this point. So I don't know, but my speculation is that those places have to stay open because they're keeping people alive, right? And it's close quarters. It just really is. Those waiting rooms are jam-packed. The dispensing stations are all right next to each other. So my guess is probably what they're doing is just taking extraordinary precautionary measures, probably wearing PPE, personal protective equipment, to the extent that it's even available anymore.
Right. It's tough here.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take a hospital like Beth Israel that has a methadone clinic in it, how do they, because there's always, people pouring out of that hospital in that corner. My wife works right there. That's a rough little corner, but that's also a hospital. So they're servicing people as well. I'm curious how they're handling a situation like that, where they've got patients, regular patients that are coming in and out of there with opium addiction related issues. And then they've got a crisis on their hands. And
they've got a health center. And a lot of these places are co-located. And that was a big push kind of nationally to have services all under one roof so that people could go get their methadone, but then also to go, see their primary care provider. And now I'm wondering if that's still viewed as a blessing or not. I don't know.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
No. Talking about you mentioned something about the food supply chain in the first segment. I think that's been something really top of mind for people. They've been concerned about the accessibility to food and toilet paper, obviously. I made a vow that I will reference the toilet paper scarcity as many times as possible in every show.
You're doing very well so far.
Until shelves are stocked. At the deli, at John's Deli right now, you can only buy two packs of toilet paper at a time. There's like it's like allocated the same way like Pappy Van Winkle Reserve bourbons are. Like you can only get one at a time, and they're super expensive.
Well, at the grocery store about 5 minutes from my house, they seem, I'm not going to say name just in case, they seem to have either food or paper towels. They don't seem to have both ever at the same time.
Can't have both, yeah. It's a tough. You need paper towels when you cook. You need food to cook.
It necessitates multiple trips, but that's okay because right now that's really the only time I'm leaving my house.
Right.
Although there's a lovely path around a reservoir here called Cooper River Park. It's about 3.5 miles. So on the rare occasion that we've had sunshine, I've gone and kind of walked and run it. So. Nice. That's been nice. And it's nice to just see other people and smile at them from
Absolutely.
6 feet or further,
Prospect Park has been packed. I can't even go in there anymore because there's just too many people and too many people congregating in small spots, So I've found some other, we've got a bunch of cool little nooks and crannies around this neighborhood. So I found some other interesting spots to do like my outdoor workout and get some fresh air. But like we can't take the kids to the park anymore. I mean, Right now, fortunately, we have the backyard at Della, and that's, it's fenced off and nobody else has been back there in a long time. So I've just been, they're back there right now, just getting some fresh air. But yeah, too many people around. But the streets have definitely, where we're at, I don't know, there's some spots where I think that it's a little too dense, but around here, everybody's starting, I'd say since Sunday, people really started to heed kind of the distancing recommendations. But prior to that, I mean, Friday in Windsor Terrace, it was 70 something degrees. It looked like Mardi Gras. They were just and now you can serve drinks to go. So everybody had plastic to-go cups from here, from the paddock, from the bar, just walking up and down the street. There were kids roller skating and skateboarding and stuff. And I was like, I'm not sure this qualifies as proper distancing. But then, I don't know, it seemed like Sunday kind of everything snapped in. And I think when the governor said, you know, everything non-essential will close 8 p.m. Sunday night, people kind of got it. But people were still getting their hair done and getting tattoos and like piercings and stuff like that. And
yeah, so here in Cherry Hill in New Jersey, it's been the same situation. And the only way that you can get food that you don't make yourself is curbside, and has to be previously ordered, and everything is dark. There's no bookstores open. I mean, everything, right?
Right.
Liquor stores are still open here too. So public health officials recognize the danger.
But in Pennsylvania, I heard they were closed. Is that true?
I don't know, but it possibly is, because they're state regulated there,
right.
And those are all government employees who work in those stores. So yeah, they might be closed, and there might be people driving over the border to New Jersey to get to stock up,
to get some Coronas.
Yeah, to get the Coronas, right. But you know, what's been interesting since people have really started taking the distancing seriously is the ways that we're using technology like Zoom to bridge the gap. One of the first things that I did after I closed the agency, the office, was to start an 8 a.m. Daily meeting with my management team, just to look at what was happening with the situation, talk about our programs and all that kind of stuff. And in the beginning, which feels like a year ago, but it was just last Monday.
Like 8 days ago. That's crazy.
The conversation was rapid fire, and there was always new stuff to react to. Now things are kind of settling in. And so strategies, protocols are becoming more permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And so those meetings have become a little stagnant. So we're injecting a little life into them. We're making them more personal. One thing is using video technology. Mm-hmm. So important to see people's faces. When you're just on the phone, it is deadly.
Sucks. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like you know, I run the meeting, so I'll say, does everybody agree with that? And when it's just on the phone, it's just crickets on the other end, right? So because
they've muted you, and they're like, this motherfucker.
I've taken silence to equal consent. Just in conference calls.
That's because you're a father.
That I am, right. And hi, Lucy and Emma, if you're watching. I don't know if you are, but you might be zooming into school right now.
Right. Multiple Zooms,
anyway,
Dad. Kids are savvy these days.
I know. Well, what's amazed me, just to pivot a little, is how prepared New York City has seemed for this.
You think?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, I know there have been some hiccups, but to roll out a system like this I mean, I don't know how many public school kids there are in New York, 1 million plus?
Over 1 million, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the size of Philadelphia.
I know, right?
Yeah. And so, you know, I mean, Philadelphia, I think, is not doing it because of equity issues, because not everybody has this, access to the necessary technology. But I know that New York City is, and I think that's really commendable. And they must have had a plan in place before this.
I mean, I think there were some schools, you know, my wife's in education, and I've got 2 school-age daughters, and you know, it seems obvious that some schools were already on board with something like this and exercising it to an extent, but I don't think my wife's school was, and I think there was a lot of schools that weren't. But the pressure was just so great. And it's funny, is like the kids were like totally ready to do it. You know, they just set everything up so quickly, and where adults are like, I don't know how to work this. Like a 9-year-old was like, oh, you just hit this button, and you know, because it's just they're growing up in a very technological era where we didn't, and there are things that are just indigenous to them that aren't to us. You know, but it's funny, I've seen it kind of from the back lines where my wife is trying to get a school online, and then watching 2 other different public schools trying to get the kids online. So I've seen it from both sides. And, it is definitely a big Hail Mary. But like you said, you stretch the importance of strategy right now. And I think everybody that's still trying to operate, I know for me here at Della and at the wine store, we've had to adjust so many things and just on the fly. And this is definitely not a time for thin-skinned people. It's a high pressure situation on so many fronts. It's attacking your potential health and well-being. It's attacking your finances. It's attacking just the future of fucking society in a way. And it's super high pressure. And you'll see a lot of people just fold because they weren't prepared for this. On a number of different ways. Like, we weren't prepared technologically for a lot of things that are happening, but we're just using our intuition and previous experience. And it's literally drawn on every job and experience I've ever had. Like, the last 10 days have just sucked it all out of me, where I was like, oh my God, I haven't utilized this skill in 25 years, but I'm really glad I had that job 25 years ago that gave me that information, and it's just been sitting dormant in the subconscious work mind for all this time. And it just got sucked out in the last few days.
It's amazing how quickly you can access it again, right? Like, one of the ways that I have been able to keep relatively calm and kind of keep things going, along with my management team, they're all great, my board, who are also all great, was what I learned during Sandy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because
a lot of people are citing that. A lot of New Yorkers right now are citing their experience with Sandy, and even people talking about 9/11 and how that's helping them cope with this particular scenario, because even though the face of the obstacle is different, the response is often the same.
Well, so during Sandy, the major difference was that basic infrastructure was knocked out, right? So you couldn't have teleconferences if your server room was underwater, which right. It was for a lot of places.
Right.
But at the time, I was running a network of about 15 health centers that were located in homeless shelters throughout the city. And what we would do is not that different from what we're doing at the Food Trust now, which is where the management team would get on a phone call every morning. We'd look at what's what, redeploy staff, figure out what we could do, what we couldn't do, and just kind of manage throughout the day. And it felt like it feels like now, like it's a command center almost. Like we're all meeting each other all day, dealing with everything as it comes up, trying to keep the cash flowing. Right. So the parallels are really interesting, even though sort of the faces of the disasters or crises are completely different.
And it's almost every day in a restaurant.
Yeah, right? I'm sure it's so
right, we're going to take another break, Aaron. We'll be back in just a few, everyone. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web.
Beautiful.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network at www.talkingalternative.com. Now, broadcasting 24 hours a day. Talking Alternative.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
Do you love or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history, its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
I'm the aptly named host of Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio. Big nonprofit ideas for the other 95%. Fundraising, board relations, social media. My guests and I cover everything that small and mid-sized shops struggle with. If you have big dreams and a small budget, you have a home at Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio. Fridays 1 to 2 Eastern at talkingalternative.com.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Once again, you're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox, here with my guest, Aaron Felder, the current CEO of the Food Trust. At the end of the last segment, we were talking about how certain folks who've been around and weathered some storms already, this feels very similar to certain situations. One of the situations Aaron mentioned was Hurricane Sandy and how that affected New York City, and he was managing a group of healthcare services at the time for especially homeless people, and how the situation now is very similar. I've heard people that have been around for quite some time compare this situation to 9/11 as well here in New York City. And there's certain differences though, like with Sandy, there was a full shutdown of infrastructure. People lost power, supply chains definitely were interrupted. It was hard to get food and goods through
water.
Through water.
Yeah.
You need water? There was plenty of water. It was a hurricane. That's funny. That's not fucking funny, Jeremiah. I'm trying to, I made a few jokes.
Levity is so important right now. Like, to the extent that we can inject any in, even if it's a little distasteful.
But I still spend a little too much time with Bobby Seeger, and he has no filter, and I love it because he makes me laugh. And every now and then a little seeps through, and people are like, "Oh," and I'm like, whatever, man. Whatever.
I haven't seen him put up any naked tattoo pictures in a while. Maybe that's his way of kind of being respectful.
No, you just gotta follow the right accounts. He definitely did one of his legs. He did a video and a photo the other day of his fully tattooed legs in an Epsom salt bath just this past week. He's got a lot of accounts though. You got to follow him.
That's old tricks, Bobby. Come on, man.
Yeah. We need to see that. We need to see those butt cheek tattoos. No, he just picked up some food the other night and just killing me, man. Just killing
Miss
me.
you, Bobby. What's up?
Yeah.
What's up, bud?
So the face of the obstacle we were just talking about is different, but the responses are largely the same. I'd like to spend some time talking. You could interject too from where you're at near Philadelphia as well, and kind of speak from the New York side of things, like what's not working, and what is. One thing that has not been, and I started to mention it earlier, has not been interrupted is the food supply chain. There's been at this point there's an overabundance, which is a little scary because people were hoarder buying for a few weeks, and now their pantries are stocked, but the stores have continued to purchase as if that trend was going to continue, and now the stores are overstocked. And then especially here in New York, where some 40,000 restaurants are either not operating or reduced to probably 25% of their previous business, they're not purchasing at the same level as well. So the wholesalers are backed up to the point where now restaurant wholesalers are now offering home delivery service akin to Fresh Direct
or whatever. Yeah.
So they're all trying to salvage some sense of life, continue to breathe life into the lungs of their business, but at the same time not let all that food go bad. So this is something I think that's very applicable to your side of the industry. Is like there's going to be an overabundance of especially perishable goods, and what happens to that? Because some companies don't want to reduce prices to make it more affordable, more accessible. They would rather just sit and watch it go bad. What are some of the options in terms of that scenario?
So my organization is really not involved in supply chain. we do have those 3 farmers markets that are still operating, and one of the challenges has been making sure that the vendors, who are the actual farmers,
right,
are comfortable with the precautions that are being taken for their safety at the market. So demand for their food is way up, but there's been some reluctance on their part to show up because they don't want to get sick. So we've put in lots of different precautions, like the 6-foot distancing from the vendors. People have to point. Vendors are the only people allowed to handle the food. It all has to be pre-bagged.
Union Square farmers market is the same way now. You can't go through and like browse. You tell them, and they pick out your stuff.
You point. That's
There's
it.
like plastic barricades in front of the food. So
these guards and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. But because of the combination of where they are, so they're strategically placed in lower income, underserved, food desert type neighborhoods, and the efforts to enroll people in SNAP, they're doing boom business right now. I mean, I don't have data yet. Data's kind of slow to creep in, but I've heard that we've had 2 of our best weeks ever. And, the Food Trust doesn't see a cut of that. We're not making money because the markets are doing better, but the farmers are.
Right.
And so
it's the same. It's the same at the
amount of it.
Yeah, same at the food co-op. Like there's no entity or being reaping the extra money. It's situating us for longevity, which is great. But same there, we work with a lot of local farmers. We order a lot through Green Market. We have a ton of super small suppliers, and we're really trying to patronize them a lot more right now. So it's good for them, and it's obviously good for the consumer to get that accessibility.
Yeah, I mean that's how they're going to stay afloat, right? Is things like co-ops and farmers market, and that's how they've always stayed afloat. But not to sound trite, but now more than ever, right?
Right. No, I mean, like I said earlier, we're seeing a big, local businesses that have stayed open. The only reason they're able to do it is because people are closer to home now, and I'm involved in a number of businesses and locally, and see, I know what the back end numbers are, and some of them are like really up because everybody's right here, and they're just like, oh, we're going to spend our money locally, and that's, I feel like for like Lay Paddock is still open, Della is still open, Hamilton's is still open doing takeout, a lot of other places, and daily I see places just deciding like, okay, we can't do this anymore. Like 3 days
right.
They're just like, no, can't do it.
Well, you're the restaurant business. I mean, I don't know a thing about it, but I know what everybody knows, which is that it's day to day.
Yeah.
Razor thin margins, high personnel costs, right? And to cover your costs, you have to do a certain amount of business every day. And under current circumstances, how can anyone?
No, it's impossible. But what, like a lot of us, what we're doing is we're the employees that have no other source of income and wouldn't get, it's not like, oh, we're closed, sorry, you can go find another job. There's just nothing available for them. So a lot of it is definitely just to keep them employed and safe. Because for me, they're like my family. The people that
I know.
More than half my staff has been here since before we opened, and we're going on 5 years now. I mean, that's.
I've been going to Della for years, and one nice thing is that it's the same faces.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It is. So I intend to take care of those people, but we're falling behind on absolutely everything else.
Well, what'll be interesting will be to see what happens when the stimulus dollars really start to trickle down. I mean, now. You're technically a small business, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So you're eligible for these low interest loans, but I don't know your appetite for going into debt because
I'm not taking out a loan. Yeah, no way. That's like starting over again. I'd rather close this and save my money and start another business on my own. I'm not, I'm not trying to be beholden to anybody like that. That's a terrible way to live and operate.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. You don't want to finance your future away just to keep something going when you don't know, A, when the new normal is going to start, and B, what it's going to look like. Like you and I were talking about this before. What is going to be the willingness of people after this is sort of gradually unrestricted to gather?
Yeah.
What are football games going to look like next season?
NFL was on the chopping block already.
Yeah. I mean, the seasons that have been canceled. So NBA, NHL, who's going to go sit in a room with 15,000 people?
Right. And who's going to have the money left to, I mean, the service industry has been the first to get hit.
Yeah.
But there will be more casualties to come. And the people that are out of work right now, it will be very tough for them to get. A lot of these restaurants are not just going to turn their keys and open back up. It's not that easy. You don't just go like, oh yeah. It's, there's a big financial commitment. You haven't made any money in months. Your bank account is empty. You got to get staff and food, forget about it. It's crazy. I mean, a lot of people are turning off their electrical and their gas. I mean, it's not going to be an easy turnaround. So a lot of those people are still going to be out of work, and that's going to affect the next wave of layoffs. And that's one of my other big concerns. We're going to take one more quick short break, Aaron, and we'll talk about what I want to pick up with that when we get back. Okay, everybody listening to Entrepreneurial Web, we'll be back in just a minute.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
I'm the aptly named host of Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio. Big nonprofit ideas for the other 95%. Fundraising, board relations, social media. My guests and I cover everything that small and mid-sized shops struggle with. If you have big dreams and a small budget, you have a home at Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio. Fridays 1 to 2 Eastern at talkingalternative.com.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
TalkingAlternative.com.
All right, everybody. Once again, you're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. Welcome back. I'm broadcasting here from my restaurant in Brooklyn, the epicenter of this whole thing at the moment nationally. And I'm with my guest, Aaron Felder, who is somewhere in New Jersey.
Cherry Hill.
Cherry Hill.
Store, capital of America.
Yeah. Ooh, fun. So getting back to where we just left off, I was saying I wanted to talk about what's working and what's not. So one thing has not had an interruption. It's been the supply chain. There's been plenty of food to go around from the suppliers. People are just hoarding, buying it before retailers can get it back on the shelf. And the same with alcohol. There's a surplus right now. If people just found some kind of rhythm to where they could purchase reasonably, you wouldn't see unstocked shelves and everybody would be fed. There's never been the threat of a full lockdown where people can't leave their house. And even in places like Italy, you can leave, someone from your household can leave once or twice a day to go purchase food and things like that. So that seems fine. There's food supply. There's enough. The job thing is an issue, and that's going to be an ongoing issue. And I think for you, this could be down the line something serious. I was mentioning the amount of unemployment, and that's probably going to grow through this time period, which is going to make the lower income bracket that you service go whoop like that. And those people, one of the things they absolutely need is food. And you look at cities like Philadelphia and New York City that have thousands, tens of thousands of service industry jobs. More than tens of thousands, service industry locations that fuel exponentially more jobs. All those people are going to be without work. I know there's a stimulus package coming through, but it's not a lot of bread. It's really not a lot of money.
Not. It's a big number, but it's not enough.
Yeah, it's not. It's a lot of people to distribute it to. So for you, this could be a big, I don't want to say a headache or hassle, or I also don't want to pitch it like it's going to be a lot of work for you soon. Like, oh, good. Like, it's going to be a lot of work for you probably in like 6 months. Like, come summertime, all these people not being able to go back to work, needing access to food in urban areas and the lower income bracket. Have you all talked about that in your meetings yet? Has that come onto the radar?
No, not yet. We've really been focused on how to hold on to things, how to hold on to what we have, and the second is morale.
You should open a restaurant.
The things we can do for that. The things we can do for that, like we had a staff satisfaction committee yesterday, and there were some great ideas. We're going to do a virtual cocktail party for the whole staff, book club, things like that, just to keep a sense of cohesion, because I think that's super important.
Right? I absolutely agree that the moral battle almost outweighs the financial right now, and it maybe even health. Like, if you're healthy, if you're not sick, it's definitely the big morale battle, and that will help you maintain some sort of financial stability. Of course, it might not be the way it was, back in the good old days 10 days ago, but
right.
It's like what they, we always heard in jiu-jitsu is that it's 75% mental, 25 physical. Even though it shows up, your daily practice feels like this physical practice, but it's really the mentality that you walk around with that is the real treasure. And man, like I was saying, when I wake up in the morning and I'm just like in a panic, I scramble for those shreds of morale that, fortunately I have a practice like jiu-jitsu that I've done for a long time, and I'm in a really great community, and it doesn't take long for me to get those injections of morale. And I'm like, okay, now I can address what I need to do financially to try to survive this and still, maintain a good contribution to the community and help people out. I mean, we're dealing in something a little different, the ends of the food spectrum you and I are working on are quite different, but at the end of the day, it's still like providing food for people. But I feel like more than ever, I've always said I don't sell food and alcohol. I sell experiences. That's really why people come. It's like of course they need to eat and drink, but they want that sense of something. And right now, I think that's really important to just like still be able to offer that to an extent, because people are hunkered down, people are scared, people are nervous, like what the hell is going to happen? And then you have this little slice, just even if it's momentary, of like, oh, that thing, I love that thing. Maybe that's the fuel just to get you one more day,
I mean, I think finding those oases in your day, whatever those look like to you, are super important. Right. That's something we've talked about in our staff meetings, and there've been lots of good ideas floated around. The thing that I miss the most is group exercise. I can exercise by myself just like anybody else, but you feed off of the energy of other people, not just in exercise, but in life. And that's the hardest piece of this isolation thing. Is just not having the collective energy, No,
I used to hug like 20, 30 people a day in class.
I know. Me too. And then of course, over the course of the hour, you're sweating and snotting in each other's mouths. Yeah. So I can understand how that would be frowned upon right now, but hopefully we'll get back to it soon.
Hopefully. So, will your organization, you said you guys are nationwide. Would you all at some point consider, how would it work? Like, could you all work with community-based food co-ops to reach a bigger group of people and provide a larger service? Is that possible, do you think?
Well, so it would really depend on the co-op, because some of them that are member owned are able to keep prices down because they're member owned, right? And the markup on groceries at grocery stores is ridiculous, hundreds and hundreds of percent points.
Right.
And in co-ops, it's virtually eliminated, So at the backbone of the mission of the Food Trust is to keep things affordable. I don't know that we have any formal partnerships with co-ops now. I don't know what the co-op model or scene looks like in Philadelphia, but certainly in New York, it's extremely vibrant. I was a member of the Park Slope Co-op when I lived there. I am not looking for mission creep. to change the organization just so it stays alive because it exists for a reason. But I'm also not looking away from any new opportunity that the situation presents either. So that's something I'll take to my board and to my management group.
Yeah. When we opened the Widget Terrace Food Co-op, one of the things that I really wanted to see come out of it was, because it's small. It's a 700 square foot storefront. It's more like
I've been inside of it. It's tiny, but it's nice.
It's like a bodega. It's like a co-op bodega. But I feel like that's something that could pop up in nearly every community, and service, especially the people most in need there. And when you're talking about just like some volunteer hours, that gets that cost way down. We offer at certain income levels, like no investment fee to join. So you literally just, all you have to do is work a little bit, and it's like 2 hours every 5 weeks or something like that. It's pretty minimal. And then you get accessibility to all that food, really great food at the best possible prices.
And it's fun. Those shifts are fun.
They often are. I enjoy it. But my biggest concern now is just the accessibility. I think it's going to be a major factor. Again, starting, I think by summertime, we're going to really see that big need. And if we could somehow, instead of satellite, I know there in like the state of Arizona, there's a co-op organization where they had multiple stores and they were all bound together. I'm thinking more completely separate, just these little pocket entities that maybe were somehow connected to something like the food trust. It just in terms of support somehow, it doesn't even have to be financial.
No, and
to ensure survival.
Sounds a lot like our corner store model, and I don't want to speak from ignorance. It may already include some co-ops. The agency does so many different things that I even 2 months in, I don't know all of them, really well just yet. Yeah. But
right, you're pretty new to this position.
I'm new to the position, and at this point, half of it has been under the specter of the virus. The couple of weeks where it was already starting to spread, but we were open, and now the couple of weeks that we've been working distance. So it's been an interesting time to lead a new organization through.
Hell of a time to start a new gig. Listen, man, we're gonna have to wrap up. Anything you want to say to people before we go? Any last thoughts? You stole my message of the week already.
So I would just return to that, to the mantra of you can only do your best. And in our morning meetings now, we're starting to do something called Yesterday My Coworker. And so what we're really talking about is crazy things that our kids did during meetings. Right?
Business partners,
or for those of us who are completely isolated and alone, talking to our houseplants. And so one of the things one of my coworkers said today that was really funny was that they were on a video conference with the funder, and one of their kids ran by, fully on in the screen, fully nude.
Nice.
Right? So finding those moments of levity is super important to hold on to. And
I want to do that to one of my wife's Zoom meetings so bad. So bad. Bobby
I don't
Seeger
think that
style.
would be good. What
Bobby
grade
Seeger
did she
style.
teach again?
High school.
Oh, boy.
All right, man. It was so great to speak to you. I yearn for the day that I get to choke your neck again.
Oh, man. Me too. And to everybody who's listening, that's just as weird as it sounds.
Yes. All right, man. Well, once again, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
I'm the aptly named host of Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio. Big nonprofit ideas for the other 95%. Fundraising, board relations, social media. My guests and I cover everything that small and mid-sized shops struggle with. If you have big dreams and a small budget, you have a home at Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio. Fridays 1 to 2 Eastern at talkingalternative.com.
Hey, all you crazy listeners. Looking to boost your business? Why not advertise on Talking Alternative with very reasonable rates? Interested? Simply email at info@talkingalternative.com. Talking Alternative.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network at www.talkingalternative.com. Now, broadcasting 24 hours a day. Talking Alternative.
Do you love or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history, its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.